Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode for notanalog.com. Finally, I'm finishing up with the review of the Lumia 1020. For those of you who watched the unboxing, around 4,000 of you at the time, got a quick look at the camera, a little bit look around the phone, but today I'm going into a little bit more depth, and after about 3 weeks of solid use, giving you some real feedback on what the Lumia 1020 is like. Now, things about the 1020 that you may not already know, it's got a 41 megapixel camera on the back. It's huge and it's extremely valuable, and it changes the way I took pictures. I'll tell you about it in a second. Now, to talk about the actual device itself, 40 megapixel camera on the back, 1.2 megapixel camera on the front. It's about 10.4 millimeter thick at its thickest point, which is actually around where the camera sits. Weighs 158 grams, which is not too bad, but a little bit on the bulkier side compared to some phones. 4.5 inch display, 1280 by 768 resolution on that as well. 2 gig of RAM, 32 gig of storage. You also get 7 gig of cloud storage as well, which is really handy. Simple apps on there like your Office suite, your Excel, Word, PowerPoint. Nokia's also added in a lot of applications as well, which Windows Phone don't have as standard, such as Nokia Procam, Here Maps, Here Drive. Now these apps really do make Windows Phone shine. I can't recommend any other Windows Phone except for the ones that Nokia makes, purely because of the apps that they add to it. You don't find that with, say, Samsung, who make them, and HTC, for example. Nokia really does a better job of Windows Phone than anybody else. Now, let's talk a little bit about the camera, because that's obviously always the highlight of this device. 41 megapixels, how good is it, and what do we do with it? Well, it's beneficial for me because of two key reasons. I can take the picture, snap the picture, and all of a sudden I can then crop and adjust the image to be exactly of what I wanted, because a lot of the times you'll take a picture and what you really want to take the picture of is just something which is in the middle, and you can then crop it and resize it without making the image look really blurry or anything like that. I could stand further away from a subject, take the picture, crop it, and then it looks like I was really right up and close with it. So say for example a lion, you wouldn't have to get right in its face. You could probably stand quite back, take the picture, whereas people with, say, an iPhone would have to get really close and die. You wouldn't have to do that. So I noticed that not with lions, but I noticed that with scenery, birds, a whole lot of other things. Birds, for example, you get too close, they get scared, they fly away. Take the picture, that's a better example, right? Birds, a bit more friendlier, no lions. Now, also, there's a huge xenon flash on the back, and the flash itself is really good, and it still produces a natural image when you take that picture. It doesn't sort of light the whole world up and make everyone look like this. So 40 megapixels, the xenon flash, it's got optical image stabilization as well, so even if you're a little bit nervous and a little bit shy about taking your picture, it's probably still going to come pretty good as well, and that helps. I do have a little bit of shaky hands when I am doing photography, but I noticed with these images still came really crisp, and I kind of appreciated that. It's got the backside illumination sensor as well, so it let a lot of color in, and it also provided some good contrast as well. Even in low light situations, images still came out a lot brighter than I expected, especially when you compare it with other phones that I do use. You have so many manual controls on this camera which you don't normally see on cameras, which are in phones, and you have full control, so you can adjust things like the shutter speed, the ISO settings, white balance, and so much more. And it's so simple to use, and you'll see that behind me as well. Now, when you do shoot these super large images, sharing them can be a problem, obviously, so Nokia's allowed for that, and when you do shoot a 41 megapixel image, you actually get a 34 megapixel or a 38 megapixel image depending on your aspect ratio, but they also give you a 5 megapixel image to share, and that's perfect for sharing on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, because when they're looking at it on their phones, people around the world, for example, which are sharing these pictures, they're only looking at it on a screen this big or smaller, and you don't need to give them the full size picture, and plus your data allowance would just disappear as well. So that is really handy overall, and obviously the front facing camera, without sort of ignoring it completely, is still pretty decent. I did take some decent selfies, wasn't too upset with the quality, it was quite good. It does shoot 1080p video. For an example of that 1080p video, have a look at the unboxing I did. That gives you a really good idea, because I filmed the whole thing with another Lumia 1020. Now, overall, I do like the phone. I love the dedicated camera button because it makes you feel like you really are taking proper pictures. You're not sort of poking around the screen, which tends to move the phone as well. Now, looking at the side of the phone, this is where some of the negatives come into it. Look at the side and you can see this sort of little mountain, this little Ayers rock on the back, and that is where they house the flash and the camera. Now, I understand that they have a lot more they need to jam into this phone, but by making that bulge, it really does sit upright when you lay it flat, and as a result, it almost becomes a bit of a swivel top. And also when you're holding it, it doesn't feel natural to hold it like this underneath the groove, and above it always felt too stretched as well. So I actually don't like this ridge. The corners are complete right angles, but they're not as sharp as the Lumia 925. However, I prefer holding the Lumia 925 over this. In the hand, this doesn't feel too bad. However, the 925 is kind of my preferred hand holding device. Obviously, it doesn't have the same camera as this, but internally, it's not that different at all. Windows Phone and storage and things like that aren't that different. If you're in the market for a Windows Phone, this is it. I mean, this is literally the one that you will be buying. I would be upset with you if you went and bought something else and were left disappointed, because the camera on this is the best, which I've seen in a very, very long time. And it's kind of the best of Windows Phone when you put Nokia with it as well. So I do like the 1020. I also would love to see a bit of an adaptation with the 925 on the body side, but otherwise, look, I can't complain too much. It is Windows Phone. If you are a Windows Phone fan and you know what you're getting yourself into, check it out, because it's, yeah, you want Windows Phone, you want Lumia 1020. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.